Let's talk about data. The way businesses relate to their data is changing, and it's changing fast. We are in the middle of a massive shift in thinking, moving away from a world where data is just an afterthought to one where it's the absolute core building block for everything we do. So let me just start with a simple question for you. Think about the data your organization creates. Is it treated like a vital asset, the actual lifeblood of the business? Or is it just exhaust, kind of like fumes from a car, a secondary byproduct that someone else has to clean up later? How you answer that question, well, it says a whole lot about your company's data architecture.
This quote from Adam Bellamar really hits the nail on the head. For decades, we've had this application-first thinking. We build an app, and the data it spits out is basically an afterthought. And as he points out, this single mindset, it's the root cause of so many of the data headaches we're dealing with today.
Now, to really get why the solution is so cool, we first have to get our heads around the problem. And the problem is that the way most businesses create, share, and use data is, frankly, a mess. It's haphazard and totally disjointed. So let's dig into why our current practices just aren't cutting it anymore. Okay, the central issue really boils down to this one fundamental tension. On one hand, we desperately need consistent, easy access to data from all across the business. But on the other hand, what have we been doing for the last decade? Breaking up our big, clunky applications into tons of smaller, fragmented services. So easy access to data is directly at odds with our modern system architecture. So how in the world did we get into this state of mayhem? Well, it's a story that starts with the very systems we built to try and create order in the first place. Let's take a quick walk through the history of our data communication struggles. It all starts right here. This is the classic scenario, right? You've got your big, old, reliable monolith application that runs a huge part of the business. Inside that monolith, hey, all the data's right there, it's easy to get to. But now, you need to build a new separate service, maybe for search. And suddenly, you're faced with the million-dollar question. How do you get all that good stuff, the item data, the store data, the inventory data, out of the monolith and into your new service reliably?
So teams usually go down one of two paths here. And let me tell you, they're both dead ends. Strategy one is data replication. Just, copy the data directly from the monolith's database. The problem? It's a huge one. You're now completely chained to the monolith's internal design, and your queries can drag its performance right into the ground. The second strategy is using APIs. But APIs were never designed for moving huge amounts of data. Trying to do that just creates an operational nightmare.
And the result of these failed strategies isn't some clean, beautiful architecture. No, it's this: a messy, tangled web of custom, point-to-point connections. Teams just start grabbing data from wherever they can get it, sometimes from copies of copies of copies. And in this mess, trying to find the original source of truth? Good luck. It's nearly impossible. Now, believe it or not, this chaos was actually made worse by a really well-intentioned idea from the big data world: schema on read. And the promise was so seductive. It was like, hey, don't worry about the structure and quality of your data when you write it. Just dump everything into a giant data lake, and we'll figure out what it all means later when we read it. It promised so much flexibility. But the reality of schema on read often looked a lot more like this. Without any quality checks at the source, bad data just floods the system. We're talking negative inventory counts, null values where there shouldn't be, messed up prices. These errors are silent killers. They don't crash your system, they just quietly poison all of your analytics downstream, and the damage can go completely unnoticed for months. So here's the crucial point. This technical mess creates a massive organizational mess. You end up with this completely dysfunctional relationship between teams. The application developers, they're the experts. They know the data inside and out, but they have zero responsibility for sharing it. Then you have the data engineers. It's their job to get the data, but they don't really own it or understand its context. And the data analysts? Well, they're at the very end of the line, the furthest you can get from the experts, left trying to make sense of all the junk. Okay, so that's the problem, a technical and an organizational nightmare. So now, let's finally turn to the solution. It's a whole new way of thinking called data mesh, and it represents a fundamental shift in our entire approach to data. At its very heart, data mesh, a concept pioneered by the brilliant Zhamak Dehghani, is a framework that finally promotes data to a first-class citizen. This is the absolute key. It's all about treating data not as exhaust, but as a valuable product, with dedicated owners, quality guarantees, and real service-level agreements. And this is the after picture.
It's a world away from that tangled mess we saw before, isn't it? In a data mesh, data is shared as clean, discoverable, and well-defined data products. One team can create a data product, and any other team can then easily find it, consume it, or even build new products on top of it. The whole system is organized, it's clear, and it's built on trust.
Okay, so that all sounds great, but how does it actually work? Well, this new model is built on 4 foundational pillars. Let's break them down one by one. Here they are, the 4 principles that make the data mesh real: domain ownership, data as a product, federated governance, and a self-service platform. And together, they tackle both the technical and the organizational problems we've been talking about. All right, first up, domain ownership. This completely flips the old model on its head. The business teams that are the actual experts on the data, the people creating it, are now responsible for sharing it as a high-quality data product. No more just throwing it over the wall to some poor central data team. Second, and this one is so important, is data as a product. This requires a huge mindset shift. It means you manage your data with the exact same discipline you'd use for any software product. It has an owner, it has clear documentation, it has versioning, and it has quality guarantees that other teams can actually rely on. Third, we've got federated governance. This strikes a really crucial balance. It's not a total free-for-all. You have a central team that sets the global rules of the road, the standards for quality, security, and how everything works together. But, and this is key, it's the individual domain teams who are empowered to implement those standards for their own data products. And finally, number 4 is the self-service platform. Think of this as the technology that makes it all possible. It's the set of tools and infrastructure that makes it dead simple for domain teams to build, share, monitor, and discover data products without needing a PhD in infrastructure engineering. So when you put these 4 principles together, it really does change everything about how an organization uses its data. It moves data from being something in the background that we have to deal with to being front and center. Ultimately, what data mesh does is transform data from that messy, unreliable byproduct into a reliable, discoverable, and truly trustworthy building block. And when your teams can trust and find the data they need, that's when they're empowered to build better products, get faster insights, and drive real innovation. And that leaves us with one final thought to take away from all this. I want you to really ask yourself this question. If your organization started treating its data with the care and discipline of a core product, instead of as just some messy afterthought, how would that transform what's possible for you?